Greetings shippers, welcome back, and it's time to take a look at the great ships of 2017. Well, according to Tumblr anyway. Also no, we're not filming in the dead of night, it is just the gloomiest winter that Canada has ever experienced, I think. No sun here. As fandom has grown, so has the interest in taking stock of who is shipping what, where, and why. Although interest tends to lean towards the what. One site that has long kept track and tallied and also held votes and all kinds of other fun things is the both beloved and hated Tumblr. A site that has a certain reputation when it comes to fandom. Not always the best. Like most sites, Tumblr has its pros and cons. And it's important to note that it doesn't represent all of fandom. It is instead part of fandom like many other things. It is but one facet, no matter what the New York Times says. So its top ships might be different than the top ships on some other platform. Basically, take this list with a grain of salt. Just because they're the top ships on Tumblr doesn't mean they're the top ships for all of fandom. In fact, depending upon where you practice your fandom, you may have encountered some entirely different top ships this year. However, it does serve as a decent gauge to see what is at least popular and current, as Tumblr, because of its reblog format, is very rapid fire, and it specializes in many different aspects of fan culture, not just fics and art, but especially discourse. So if something is being very discussed, there is a chance that it may pop up more on Tumblr than somewhere else. Such a large amount of discourse is a bit of a double-edged sword, and is part of the reason why some people can avoid this site, as occasionally it can get a bit out of hand. But it must be noted the same can be said for any other site as well. However, Tumblr is the source of many coordinated ship wars. And again, it must be noted that many fans don't use this site at all, or simply don't know how to. It doesn't have the most intuitive setup. Before we count all of these ships down, it must be noted that one of the most interesting things was seeing mainstream media pick up on this list and what they made of it. What was seen was mostly attempts to dissect fandom using this one list, and as always, they were woefully inaccurate. Which isn't surprising, as the nuance required for tackling a subculture has long been lacking when it comes to mainstream reporting. In fact, subcultures often found themselves either understood by being broken down into their base commodifications, so what can be sold, or by the way the journalist places their own political inclinations onto it. This was heavily present in the New York Times article that very much wanted to turn shipping into a purely political activity, basing it exclusively upon what shippers wanted to see themselves, or how they wanted to be represented, which, while definitely a part of fandom, ignored the much more shallow aspects, and the more fun spontaneity that often encounters shipping, or the way that these concepts can in fact be married together. It also tended to belittle the more fun aspects of fandom. While this was going on, IO9 professed its surprise that Voltron was popular enough to have a ship in the top 10. Yes. As always, as an actual shipper, reading about fandom and fan culture in that way in the mainstream is equal parts amusing and frustrating. Quick side note before we get started, this is going to be an overview, so we're just going to briefly glance upon all of these pairings discussed because there's a lot here, so we can't go too in depth. If you'd like to have a full video on any of these ships that we haven't already done, they're about to come up, please let me know in the comments down below and we can hopefully get to them because there are so many ships, so many, always. But enough rambling. Just what were the top 10 ships of 2017 according to Fandometrics and Tumblr? Let's count them down and take a trip down short-term memory lane. It's the top 10 ships from Tumblr 2017. Shout out to SDL, which lost its top 10 spot this year and slipped from 7 to 11. So close. There are a bunch of popular ships that were almosts actually, like Sheath, which came in at number 12, with Bughead following just below. But that's enough of the almost. I'll put the link to the full Fandometrics list down below so you can check out all of the top ships, and now let's get to the 10. Number 10, Way Hot, from the television show Wynonna Earp, the pairing of Waverly Earp and Nicole Hott. For those not watching, which is actually a fair few people, as in terms of the television landscape, this one is a little obscure for non-nerds, relatively speaking. Wynonna Earp is a Western horror show that debuted in 2016 on Sci-Fi, or Sci-Fi as I like to call it. The show, originally slated for 10 episodes, soon developed a loyal fan base calling themselves Earpers, who saw it through to renewal. The show contains many elements that make it appealing to shippers, as it is already made up of many tropes and provides ample points for fans to add their own interpretations, and people were attracted to the mythos and the characters. The show's heavy female cast also makes it a harbor for femslash, as can be evidenced by the enthusiasm for this pairing. If you like genre shows and female-led casts, this one is worth checking out. Though fair warning, it is not without that slight cheese factor that can be found in many a sci-fi show. However, for many fans, let's be honest, that's part of the fun. Number 9, Sanvers, the pairing of Maggie Sawyer and Alex Danvers from Supergirl. DC's era Arrowverse has taken the world by storm, and it is currently Supergirl that has the attention of many shippers, with many cheering the representation presented by Alex Danvers, hence cheering on her relationship, making this one of those rare instances in fandom where people are for a canon ship. Although for those up on their spoilers, some fix-its may be necessary. Definitely not one of the more drama-filled ships in the fandom, so it's safe to look up on Tumblr, for the most part. Number 8. Ota Yuri, Otabek Alton, and Yuri Plisetsky from Yuri on Ice. Every anime season tends to have a breakout in its lineup of new shows. For the 2016 winter season, that was Yuri on Ice, with a canon pairing on display much beloved by fans, but that doesn't mean it was the only ship people were drawn to in this anime. As well as being drawn to this work for the beauty of its art, many were drawn to all of its characters, which means that there were other, admittedly much smaller pairings, but they still found themselves vastly circulated. For many, they were drawn to the second Yuri of the series, who quickly outgrew his traditional rival archetype, and so viewers were pleased to see him finding a friend in an equally, if not more, reclusive skater. For those who were intrigued by the side characters, this ship gave them tons to play with, and left the more dominant ship intact. Figure skating was never so shippable, and for some people interesting. But honestly, figure skating is interesting, you're missing out. Number 7, Mick Hanzo, the pairing of Jesse McCree and Hanzo Shimada from Overwatch. This game has exploded in a big way on the e-game circuit, with characters whose backstories have people drawn to them for reasons that far exceed their various advantages in terms of team building strategy. This because their backstories are accessible far outside of the game itself, with shorts, be they animated or comic tie-ins, that flesh out the characters and their connections. While there are canon couples, fans have been drawn to the pairing of a samurai and a cowboy from the very beginning, pairing these two lone warrior archetypes who they dream could find love together as they roam into the sunset, taking out some enemies along the way. Number 6. Back to Supergirl for Supercorp, the pairing featuring our very own Supergirl herself, Kara Danvers, and Lena Luthor. The chemistry between these two characters was noticed by fans whether they shipped them romantically or not, and the ship has actually gained fuel based on many fans' dislike of the actual canon pairings that are occurring instead of it, which has led to many things, such as an ongoing battle between Supercorp and Caramel, and has made this one of the more discoursey pairings, with many people feeling that the show owes more to its viewers in terms of representation, and that they have a responsibility to explore what many people are seeing. However, even with all that being said, for fans, the fandom community has become a refuge to celebrate the love these two feel for each other, or at least the love many fans perceive them to. Although, because of all the aforementioned, feelings do run high. So if discourse isn't something you love, maybe check the ship out outside of Tumblr. Although you are gonna miss out on some really nice art if you do that. Just a heads up if that's not your thing. But if it is, Tumblr's the place you need to be. Number 5. Ji-kook, the pairing of Park Ji-min and Seong Jung-kook from BTS. While RPF is not for everyone, it is actually highly popular within shipping culture. This can be seen across the board, and especially in fandom. The extremely popular Korean pop act is no exception. In fact, RPF in K-pop is pretty rampant. Fans love these two and are obsessively seeking evidence of these two's love for one another, a quest that is definitely played up and encouraged by some of the marketing. This ship has been going strong and will continue to do so for a long time to come. Particularly as for those who are not into this kind of shipping or K-pop in general, it can fly a bit under the radar, despite how huge ships like this actually are. The amount of art, fics, compilation vids, everything is truly astounding. So if you're new to this ship, you're gonna be there for a while. Number 4. Keeping with RPF with a real person pairing classic, Fan, the pairing of YouTubers Dan Howell and Phil Lester. Their fangirls are numerous and passionate, and this ship is actually often used as the focal point of the discussion of both how creators should or shouldn't handle shipping and how far is it acceptable for fans to go. Questions that are still being debated to this day and will continue to be, because regardless of how one feels about this ship, unlike some of its counterparts, it is still going strong. I get a lot of requests for this one, so please let me know if you're still interested in seeing it. Number 3. Victuuri, once more from Yuri on Ice. We did a whole video dedicated to this couple, so please check that out if you're interested in hearing more. If you're unaware, this is the pairing of the show's titular couple, Viktor Nikiforov and Yuri Katsuki. This relationship was part of the enjoyment that many had for this series, as they were thrilled to see such a positive, fun, healthy queer relationship that was still full of fangirl conventions, yet it also exceeds and pushes boundaries, creating a world of boundless acceptance that is indeed a breath of fresh air. For those who use the term practically canon, this is indeed practically canon, because the only reason it isn't overtly stated is because of some different cultural conventions. Indeed, the creator didn't even feel that it had to be stated. As such, this ship will probably remain strong as fans eagerly await more from this popular anime. Number 2. Malik, Magnus Bane and Alec Lightwood from Shadowhunters. While this series may have been in the news for some less than positive reasons lately at the time of this recording, people still love this ship. Once more a canon pairing that thrills fans in the fact that it is unique for providing some representation that is often lacking. This book series and now television series is a genre work, meaning that it falls in the category of both being a genre show and of course a teen drama, which draws a wide variety of fans, including those who are already coming from the book first. So the ship pool is very wide and there are a variety of works because of it. And this ship has found itself at the center of many discussions, and there are some tensions amongst the ships in this universe. So if one does not ship it, sometimes it could get a bit aggressive. However, like with most ships, there's still a very large positive contingent. But just be warned, because this is Tumblr. Like many on this list, this ship has a chance to remain strong in the coming year. And number 1. If you've been paying attention to fandom, particularly on social media, which some would actually consider Tumblr to be, then you've seen the excitement surrounding this ship, so it probably won't shock you. It's Klance, the Voltron pairing of paladins Keith and Lance that fans swear is practically canon, although that assertion must be called into question when placed against some of the others on this list. Regardless, fans flocked to this pairing from the start, and their love of it has only increased with the seasons as the characters have moved from rivals to friends and their screen time has increased. We've done a couple of videos on Klance, so please check those out and I'll link them down below. This pairing moved up from number 5 last year to number 1, and based on my Tumblr dashboard, it's not going anywhere anytime soon. I know there were a bit more disclaimers here, but that's just because for people who are unfamiliar with Tumblr, they may not know exactly what kind of environment they're getting into, and that's important to know. As mentioned at the beginning, Tumblr can be both a very fun and a very scary place. It just depends on what side of it you end up in and what you're looking for and how you search for it. But if any of these ships interested you, now you know there is tons of material for all of them on Tumblr. So those were the top 10 ships from Tumblr of 2017, determined by the amounts of posts and shares made about each of these using these terms. As I always say, tagging is important, especially if you want your pairing to end up on one of these lists one day. Are you shipping any of these pairings? Does this reflect your 2017? What were your top pairs of this year? If you hung around more on other fandom sites, was this the 2017 you experienced? Share what ships you encountered the most down below. It was cool to see how many of those pairings on that list were femslash, especially after our Where's All the Femslash vid. Apparently the answers are in Supergirl and on Tumblr. Please let me know if you want a full video on any of the pairings mentioned, and let's have some fun and make some predictions for 2018. A lot can change in a year, but that's what makes it fun. I can tell you this, my top ships were definitely not on this list. Thanks so much for watching and hanging out another year. Thank you for all your support, and I promise another year of fun and ships and fanversations and so many other things. Because like I say, there are as many ships out there as there are stars in the sky. Catch you guys next time. This has been Shipper's Guide to the Galaxy. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Special thanks to all my patrons, names on the sides. Follow me on social media to stay up to date, and as always, stay tuned, for there are as many ships out there as there are stars in the sky.